What's up? What's up? This is Mismatch Era Podcast. This is your boy Vaughn, and we got some exciting news today. It's officially official. DeAndre Hopkins is a Tennessee Titan. It's officially official, man. It's officially official. My boy is a Tennessee Titan. Um, Most importantly, how they came to this point, they have agreed to terms with Kevin Byard on a restructure in his contract. Um, Shout out to Kevin Byard, man. We gotta clap it up for Kevin Byard, man. This man is one of the greatest Titans of all time. One of the greatest Titans of all time. They better put his name in the Ring of Honor when it's time to go. And hopefully we can bring this bowl home, man, and get him to build a statue for my boy because he's really held it down since he's been the Tennessee Titan. The main reason for this structure was to make room for DeAndre Hopkins. But as you know, we do also have Nicholas Petit-Pierre, who's going to be suspended for the first 6 games for gambling. So we have been looking to add to our offensive line depth so that way we can right the ship or keep it afloat until he returns. Um, and we've been looking at George Fent. George Schultz came out with a report not too long ago that we were going to be working out Fent this weekend, and we'll most likely be signing him right after that. I'm assuming we've been I've been listening to most of the Tennessee Titans media, and they have 100% been looking forward to this move. But the main thing that I wanted to talk about today was Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel. I'm going to add both of them because in making this hire from the beginning and making this hire, they basically talked about how they needed to collaborate. So I'm going to give them both the credit. Definitely going to give Rand and all of his hires that he hired to do the analytical piece and also do the contract negotiations. I'm going to give them a lot of credit for making this move as well. But we'll just go with Mike and we'll go with Rand and Mike in terms of giving this credit for this signing. They have been extremely good this offseason. All right, let's take a look at their moves off season. Let Rand cook, they said. They said let Rand cook, and he did indeed cook. When we look at the expectations of the fan base, our offseason wishes going into this offseason of this year, our number one wish was to fire offensive coordinator Todd Downing. We also wanted to fix the offensive line. Our offensive line was terrible this year, extremely bad, bottom of the league, mostly because of injuries. And I think the combination of injuries and age, all right, like we were extremely old. It was about time to move on and just get younger on that offensive line. Fix the secondary. A lot of depth issues and injury issues there as well. But for the most part, we need a proven corner, all right, a proven number one corner, and you know that'll help our depth because Kevin Fulton has been pretty. He's been decent when he's been on the field, but the issue is he can't stay on the field, and because of that, you can't be a number one corner or dependable if you can't stay on the field. And that's just facts. So we needed to fix the secondary and get more depth, get better at wide receiver. This was the number one thing on the offensive side, I believe. Just get better at wide receiver. The talent wasn't there, and so it was really hard for us to make anything happen in the passing game. Actually, take that back. The biggest issue probably was fixing the offensive line, but next was getting better at wide receiver. Getting a future QB. Tannehill has been on the downslide. A lot of our fan base has been frustrated with Ryan Tannehill. So getting a future quarterback and getting faster on both sides of the ball, running back depth as well. Derrick Henry was off the field way too often last year for players who didn't even have comparable talent, especially once Dontrell Hilliard was down. So going to get some running back depth, somebody who can be a good complementary piece with Derrick Henry, and most importantly, clear cap space for the potential rebuild. Now I'm going to take a second, step away from that for a second. This offseason, there was a lot of this, a lot of shit talking. Um, I don't want to assume why. I feel like I know why. But when we hired Rand Carthon, there was a lot of this, a lot of this, a lot of, a lot of doubt, a lot of criticism, hyper criticism, and just not believing in the vision. They didn't want to let Rand cook. All right, but as we look and we see what happened before Rand got there, a couple of things happened. So that's why I wanted to give credit to Mike and Rand. They fired Ty Downing. Great. All right. That's number one. They checked that off the list. Fired offensive coordinator Ty Downing, who was just, we wanted this to happen after his first year. It was so bad. But for some reason, they gave him another year because we made the playoffs in spite of him. And, we were still a quite decent team and they left room for growth or whatever. But we wanted him gone last year. Finally got him going. Offensive line coach Keith Carter. I think what lost him his job was leaving Dennis Daly out there like that. that I'm 100% sure his personality, and his personality, being very abrasive with his players and very no nonsense, almost like the college culture that you get from a coach. That on top of just the low performance last year, but I think the number one thing was probably the decision to leave Dennis Daly out there on that island and just let him get cooked constantly. All right, so fix the offensive line. Step one, they fired offensive line coach Keith Carter. Secondary coach Anthony Midget was also fired, as well as offensive skills assistant Eric Frazier. In cooperation with fixing the offensive line, they cut Taylor Lewan, who just couldn't get right. And actually, they has a lawsuit out right now for one of his surgeries because they messed up so bad or botched his knee surgery. So be on the lookout for that. But they got rid of Taylor Lewan, Nate Davies, who couldn't stay on the field and honestly didn't perform that well last year, and Ben Jones, who was just a little bit old and couldn't stay on the field and, was gutting it out last year, but just obviously he was limited in mobility and, limited in the things he could do in terms of really controlling that line of scrimmage and controlling that pocket. So the next thing was to fix the secondary. And doing that, fixing the secondary, we hired Chris Harris, which was probably the best hire of the offseason. Hiring Chris Harris from the Washington Commanders, a defensive pass game coordinator, and cornerbacks. So you want to fix that secondary, bring in a coach who has a proven track record and has the ability to possibly move up and be a head coach. That was a great hire, as well as signing quarterback Sean Murphy-Bunting, who played for Tampa, who was leaning into a rebuild at the moment, and just, I guess, overstayed his welcome there, but he's going to come and be a part of a cornerback group that is extremely talented for the Tennessee Titans, and hopefully Chris Harris can get the best out of Sean Murphy-Bunting, Christian Fulton, and the rest of that group. Getting faster on both sides of the ball, we went to get linebacker Ashier, Ben Neiman from the Cowboys, pass rusher Arden Key on defense, as well as extending Jeffrey Simmons, which is huge, retaining Tierra Top, retaining all of our dogs, which is huge. On top of that, we cut Zach Cunningham, Bud Dupree to make room, and we let David Long Jr. walk, who couldn't stay on the field as well. Just three players who couldn't stay on the field. Best ability is availability, so we got rid of those people, which was very decent. Um, getting uh, getting better on the offensive line. We also drafted Skoronski and Jalen Duncan, who Skoronski is going to be a blue chip player. He's going to be great. Um, all projections say he's going to be great. He's going to be a multi-time Pro Bowler and a mainstay on his offensive line. Jalen Duncan, who has all of the tools to be a franchise tackle. But we will see where that goes. Adam Bronskill from the 49ers, that ran Carthon connection there. A veteran who has pretty much played everywhere on the offensive line. And it's going to be a nice piece to fit in. Dillard, who's a tackle from the Eagles, adding Dillard, who played under one of the best offensive line coaches in the league and played next to some of the best linemen in the league, battling and working with those guys every day. I'm sure he's going to come and bring some of that pedigree to this Tennessee Titans offensive line. And because of the suspension to Nicholas Petit-Frere, we're potentially going to sign George Fant. I'm almost positive, unless something goes horribly wrong, we are going to be signing George Fant as well. Retain Aaron Brewer at center on a franchise tender, and this is not necessarily a part of the offensive line, but because of his effectiveness and his impact in the run game that he had with the Jets last year, tight end Trayvon Wesco is going to come over and help an offense that loves to run the ball to set up the pass. So that's going to be great. Speaking of the pass, the biggest thing the biggest criticism was for Rand and Vrabel. Aside from all of the great things that they did in the draft and free agency, up until last week, we had only signed Chris Moore at wide receiver and retained Nick Westbrook-Akina and drafted Colin Dow in the seventh round, who's going to be a project. Those moves aren't bad, but when you don't have a number one receiver, those moves are going to be questioned, to say the least. When you don't have a number one receiver, those moves are going to be questioned. But thank God, there's a ram in the bush, because we signed and won the DeAndre Hopkins sweepstakes, and that changes everything. So that changes everything for us. All right. And looking at this list, we've pretty much done everything there is to do. All right. And our lower things on the list, running back depth and get a future quarterback, we even did those. Drafted Will Levis in the second round, only gave up a third round pick, one third round pick to get a potential franchise quarterback, or at least someone to battle with Malik Willis for that franchise quarterback spot, who's kind of in the doghouse right now, but I have no doubt that he's going to be a lot better than people assume that he is. Last year was a mess, and they threw him in there, and he actually put us in position to win a couple games and make big plays. Our wide receivers just let him down that Kansas City Chiefs game. And from there, the trust was gone, as well as him having some aura issues, some leadership issues. Mike Vrabel didn't feel like he was the leader he needed to be last year, but I'm expecting Malik Willis and Will Levis to have the chance to be really good if this Ryan Tannehill thing doesn't work out long term. If it does, you can still keep both of those quarterbacks and continue to develop them behind Ryan Tannehill. The more time they get away from the field, but being near the game to improve, the better. All right, this method is foolproof. It's foolproof. All right, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. It's foolproof. We have a lot of quarterbacks who are great in the league and had expectations coming out, and when you get to sit that 1 year or 2 years, Aaron Rodgers is another example. Tom Brady is another example. When you get to sit for that year or two, all right, it really makes a difference before you go out there and get thrown into the fight. Um, but anyway, we also drafted running back Tajik Spears, who's going to be a great addition and that great complementary piece that we talked about with Derrick Henry. He completely dominated in college last year, especially one of the best teams who's going to have the prize possession in next year's draft with USC. Tight end Josh Wild, you want to get faster and more dynamic on offense, both sides of the ball. I'm going to get a tight end like Josh Wiley who can stretch the field and run like a deer and pretty much do everything that Chig can do, except he's 6'7" and, and has a crazy vertical and he's a crazy red zone target. So that's great. I don't think I missed anything on this list. So pretty much everything on our offseason wish list, they covered. Rand and Vrabel covered. And then when you look at the finished product, all right, new look offensive line. I mean, just what a great job. What a great job. New look offensive line. You got Nicholas Petit-Ferrer at right tackle, Ron Skill at right guard, Aaron Brewer, center, Skoronski, left guard, and Andre Dillard, left tackle. Obviously, George Fant or whoever wins the job, I'm not going to insinuate that it's going to be George Fant. Whoever wins the job will, step in for Nicholas Petit-Ferrer until he gets back. But this is a much faster, younger, and agile line for this Titans group. This is the biggest question mark. The offensive line is the biggest question mark. And I'm 100% sure they're going to be better, but how much better is the big question. That's the elephant in the room. How much better will they be? We're only going to go as far as this offensive line can take us. If this offensive line is clicking, we are going to be a great team, and we're going to have a chance at it. I don't have to say what it is, but we're going to have a chance at it. All right, we're going to have a chance at it. Offensive weapons, night and day from last year. Night and day. All right, we got Tannehill, quarterback, proven vet. All right, I know people are down on Tannehill, but he's a proven vet who can get it done. DeAndre Hopkins as the number one option. Number two option. Derrick Henry is always going to be our number one option. Let me rephrase that. But in terms of passing options, you have Hopkins, who's going to be your number one. Burks, who was going to be your number one, so has number one ability, but he's going to be at your number two, as well as Chig Okonkwo, who only played 38% of the snaps last year and had a ridiculous production rate. So I expect him to play at a high level and take a leap. All right. Tajik Spears, I expect him to have some special moments this year. Trayvon Wesco's not on here, as well as Josh Wiley, Nick Westbrook-Akina, Chris Moore, Kyle Phillips. There's a lot of undrafted free agents that we picked up that could possibly surprise some people, as well as some people who have been in the Titans program for a while that could possibly finally break through. I have a hard time believing Vrabel's going to keep people on his practice squad if he doesn't see a possibility in, taking a leap. And obviously, some people are going to be upset about this in Titans Nation. But Mason Kinsey probably has the ability to, do something, accomplish something like that this year as well. So a lot of weapons, man. New look offensive line, tuned up defensive line. I didn't really talk about the addition of Arden Key, retaining Tier Tart. But Arden Key, man, he completely ruined us last year. There were those two games I feel like he dominated. against our offensive line, which is not saying much, but you get that game changer and you bring it to this system who already has, bring it to this team who's already stacked on the defensive line. That front seven is going to be good. At least that front four or five is going to be good. Um, we have to see how this offensive line looks and how these linebackers look as well because we clean house at linebackers. So we shall see how it looks, man. But you guys let me know how you feel about Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel, all of the moves that they made. Let me know how you feel about it. And also let me know how you feel about the new look offensive line and the Titans' weapons. What's your win total? Over, under? All right. Do we get 10 wins? Under 10 wins? Not even close? Let me know, man. But be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, and be sure to push that notification bell so that way you can keep up when we are going live or whenever we drop a new video or short. This is Mismatch Era with your boy Vaughn.